Hello, welcome back to Let's Play Shadowrun Dragonfall. And we just had a discussion about bioweapons, specifically Doom. Now everybody's going to their individual corners. Let's see if we can have any... Back when we took on humanities, you said you fought in the Night of Rage. I'd like to hear more about that. Alright, boss, we can talk about it. See, I'm trying in a different voice. He nods and fishes his jacket pocket for his flask. So I already mentioned that Berlin's punks and anarchists joined forces to fight off the races, right? And after a long, bloody fight, we beat them. What I didn't mention is how I figured into all this. I'm an anarchist at heart, always have been, but at the time I fit squarely into the punk camp. I was 32 at the time. Messer camp while it was still touring. Not as much as we did when we were kids, but we had a following. I guess I was a sort of elder statesman of this for the scene. When we rallied to fight the racists, my followers came along for the ride. Bunch of young kids, all full of piss and vinegar and the immortality of youth. I was full of that good old Dragon Slayer spirit, pissed off and itching for a fight. So I led those kids into the fray. They waded into the riot right alongside me, yelling and screaming with their fists in the air. I don't remember a whole lot of the fight itself, boss, but I do remember the aftermath. A lot of the kids that followed me had grown up listening to my music. They had all my attitude, whatevs. But none of them had my magic, and youthful enthusiasm is no defense against a knife or a handgun. I left the punk scene for all the reasons I told you, boss, but there was a bigger reason, and I saw it in those kids' broken bodies. This road I'm on, it leads to the grave. I got no power to make it a leisurely trip. I've got the power to make it a leisurely trip. But make no mistake, that is where I'm heading. Those kids tried to follow my footsteps and they wound up sprinting ahead of me instead. Better for me to stay out of the public eye and stick to the shadows. My stint as a role model was ill-advised. Have you put any thought into what I said earlier? Yeah, boss, I have. It's an interesting idea, but there are risks. I'm thinking that this might not be the best of times to approach him about it. He's the source of my magic, remember? If our discussion turned into an argument, he could take all my magic back in a heartbeat, and then where would we be? From what you've told me about the Dragon Slayer, I don't think he'd like the way you're talking, since when has he ever encouraged you to back down from a fight? You've got a point there, boss. He wouldn't want me to back down ever, not even from him. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'll ask the Dragon Slayer about shifting priorities, I guess you'd say. Taking on some deserving organization, calling off the hunt for something more impressive than Firewing. Of course, a fight like that would never really end. I'm never going to bring down a core poly club all on my lonesome. He shrugs. Maybe that's not a bad thing. It'd take a lot of the guesswork out of life. I don't know, boss. If you have any thoughts about this, I'd love to hear them. You've already done some damage to Humanus. How about them? Could they be your new white whale after we've done with all this? Why tie yourself to a specific group? I say keep it fluid. Stomp anyone that threatens the flux. Isn't that what Berlin is all about? Honest to God, dragon. Loftweir is not a dragon I particularly care about. It's not one of the worst of the lot. Why tie yourself to a specific group? Say keep it fluid. Stomp anyone that threatens the flux. Isn't that what Berlin's all about? Oh, that's the wrong voice. Interesting. That's a different approach, but I like it. Hang on a second. I'll ask. He closes his eyes and concentrates. Minutes pass. Slowly, a smile creeps across his face. Yeah, I think he'd like this plan just fine. That was it? That was all it took? The Dragon Slayer doesn't mince words, boss. If he didn't like the plan, he'd have told me. Well, boss, I've got myself a plan and a new target to boot. That's assuming, of course, that any of us make it up through our current predicament alive. You know, Dietrich, now that you've got a handle on your connection with the Dragon Slayer, you could probably reach out to your old community again. Berlin's punks could benefit from your experience. Yeah, boss. I was thinking of the same thing. Maybe I could give a bit back a bit and fix some of the damage I caused my misbitten youth. After we finish dealing with the crisis in front of us, that is. Good thought, anyway. I'll keep it in mind. Okay, any updates on Alexander? Nothing new, boss. Any thoughts on the last run you'd like to share? There was nothing on that run that didn't disgust me. What they did to that troll wasn't right, boss, on any level. I don't care what anyone else tells you. You listen to me, whatevs. What you did, killing that thing, it was the right call. Yeah, it cost us a million, but letting that thing live would have been a travesty. Nothing right now, Dietrich. Okay. Do you have anything new to say? Nope. That's the I don't have anything to say set. I need to go to that. Talk? Any thoughts on about that last run? I'm not gonna lie, whatevs. This one is going to stick with me for a while. What they did to that troll was sick. This is probably going to surprise you, but I'm happy the MKVI is dead. Yeah, Herr Schmidt was pissed, and sure, our reputation got dinged. Neither of those things are good things. But I'll take them over being a part of what they were doing to that troll any day. Walking out of a run with a clean conscience is a rare pleasure. Savor it while you can. Oh, Lord. You're the one, I think. How are you holding up? Don't worry about me. I'm solid. You look like you're a million miles away. I'll be with you when it counts. Right now it doesn't. I have a question for you, Gloria, the personal kind. If you ever... I sure understand, but I still need to talk to you. Ask your questions, but do it quickly. I have things to ask. You can't have started running the Shadows much more than 5 years ago tops, so what's with the vintage chrome? It was cheap. It gets the job done. End of discussion. I don't think so. I've known a lot of street Sams in my time, but I've never met any who voluntarily install cyberware that old. You're right. There's more to it than letting on, but I'm not interested in talking about it. Can't help but notice that you seem guarded, withdrawn. That's my problem. None of your concern. If whatever happened to you has impaired your ability to trust me, then it is my concern. Come on. Glory, talk to me. Trust is earned, and I don't know you yet. Maybe later, when we get to know one another better, we can talk. For now, I prefer you dropped it. That's all I needed to know. I'll talk with you later. Let's see if I should have been pressing this all this time. Oh, good. Everything's still okay with you. You never need to worry about me, whatevs. I'm fine. Any thoughts about that last run? Whatevs. Look at me. I'm not far from being what that poor troll was. When I think what they did to him. In other words, I could have been getting responses from you about all the other runs all this time, and I just didn't push the right buttons. She looks you in the eye. Her expression remains neutral, but the slight blush has spread from her neck to her cheeks. It wasn't right, and you did only thing that you could to make it better. You knew it would cost you, and you did it anyway because it was right. I won't forget that, whatevs. Not ever. I'd still like to know about that chrome you're sporting. That's not a story I'm interested in telling out of context. If you really want to get into it, we're going to need to go back, way back. I'm not sure that you want to do that. You say that you'll give me answers when we talk about your past, so let's talk about it. Why do you care? There's no hostility in her voice. If anything, she sounds suspicious, because I'm leader of this team. And I need to know as much as I can about the runners who are working with me. All right, fine, we can talk, but we're doing it on my terms. This is a long story, whatevs. Long, and ugly, and cruel. Are you sure you want to hear this? Please. All right, I'm going to start at the beginning. Not for you, for me. I guess that it might help me to say all of this out loud. She takes a deep breath and then slowly releases it. When she speaks, the voice comes out in a cool monotone. My family lived in Stuttgart. It was a nice enough place, I suppose. My parents worked as wage slaves for IFMU. My mom was a good person. Once upon a time, my father was a decent person as well. That's what Mom always told me, but I never knew him that way. She pauses for a long moment. When she begins speaking again, some of the ice has fallen away from her voice. For the first time since you met her, Glory sounds alive. The dad I knew was an old, damaged Euro war vet who turned to hardline religion to make sense of the world. In Stuttgart, that meant either the Ritter Christi or their fascist cousin, the Kriegsritters. My father chose the latter path. I still remember hiding in my room when my father had his crews of Ritter brothers over for prayer group. They would drink, get rowdy, then spend an hour or two riling themselves up to talk about heretics and the devil's work. Then they'd go find some poor elf or dwarf, stomp the living shit out of him, and drown him in the necktie. Meanwhile, I'd be holed up at home with Mom, who would commemorate the event by drinking a bottle of wine and crying herself to sleep. Just elves and dwarves? I'd assume a mage or an orc would make a more tempting target. I'd like to get my hands on your dad and his crusaders, see how they like pushing someone who can push back. No child should have to grow up around that. Thanks, whatevs. This is difficult for me. Thank you for making it easier. Anyway, aside from the fact that my dad and his buddies were a bunch of murderous assholes, life was pretty normal. I went to school, made friends, hung out with my mom, kid stuff. Then I turned 14 and everything went to shit. Glory pauses, then swallows hard, ever so slightly, her cheeks flush red. Suddenly she looks self-conscious as if she's just snapped out of a chance. As quickly as it came, the flush of emotion disappears, her voice frosts over. I don't want to talk about this anymore. You don't need to see anything that you don't want to, but if you... Okay, airing this stuff out is clearly helping you to work through it. Yes, it is, but I'm not going to be able to get through this in one sitting. You need to understand that. Now, let's get back to the job at hand, shall we? How are you doing, Glory? Whatevs, a pleasure. As always, need anything from me. If I didn't know better, I'd think you're warming up to me. I suppose that you might say that. I don't talk to many people, whatevs. It just doesn't seem to be worth the effort. I don't really feel much anymore, not since. She caresses the chrome of her forearm with a hand made of articulated steel. If that's true, why are you still talking to me? I suppose because you've shown an interest, and because you haven't let me push you away. She locks eyes with you, her expression is blank. I don't want to mislead you, whatevs. I still don't feel anything, not warmth, or friendship, or even trust. But I can appreciate the effort you're making. It's something new, and it's worth exploring. You said things went bad. Are you ready to tell me about that chrome you're sporting? I'm getting there, whatevs, but you'll have to give me some time. The answers come when they do. You said that things went bad when you turned 14? No, I'd rather not. Why not? Because I don't see a reason to. The memories are unpleasant, and dredging them up doesn't serve any real purpose. You're wrong about that. The last time we talked, it had an impact on you. That's reason enough to continue. She pauses a moment to consider your words, a troubled look on her face. I suppose that's true. Feeling discomfort is better than feeling nothing at all. All right. Here's the deal, whatevs. I'm going to talk, you listen. When I'm done, I'm done. No complaints, no arguments, and we'll see what happens. Deal? Deal. Right. The 1,000-meter stare creeps back into Glory's eyes. A moment later, she's locked away in her own head again, reliving memories that she'd long since filed away. So, a few days after my 14th birthday, I began to express, magically. And she has an anti-magic father. Go on, Glory. Anyway, I turned 14. I awakened. I don't even remember how my parents found out about it anymore. I think that my dad caught me playing with a tiny city spirit that I coaxed out of a pile of garbage, something like that. With everything that happened afterward, those days are kind of a blur. What I do remember is my father's response to the revelation that his little girl was a witch, a hex. He beat the living shit out of me with his fists, and then his belt, and then a claw hammer that he grabbed out of his toolbox. All the while, my mother was screaming and flailing at him. She took a couple of licks with the hammer too. I'd very much like to murder your father. It's a common sentiment, believe me, but I appreciate the thought. So finally, after what felt like an hour, Dad stopped tuning me up with the hammer. I had broken ribs, busted arm. I couldn't see out of my left eye. My entire right side was covered with one giant bruise. I was bleeding all over the place, making a real mess on the carpet. The old bastard spat on me, his bleeding, crying daughter. He spat on me and told me that I was des Teufels Höhe, the devil's whore. Then he kicked me out of the house. As I was crawling away, my father told me that if he or any of his Ritter brothers ever saw me again, they'd treat me as the Berlin chapter treats the enemies of God. If you're not familiar with how the Kreuzritters here in Berlin deal with heretics, it's decidedly less pretty than what my dad and his buddies did to their victims. I got the hint, and the next morning I hitched a ride out of Stuttgart. Oh, go on, Glory. I wound up in Tübingen. I figured it would be safe enough place to find medical attention, maybe to call home. It's not far from Stuttgart, but it has a huge student community that I figured I could blend into, and the university has a decent magic department. My ride dropped me off at the university hospital, and they patched me up pretty good. Had some questions for me about how I got so beaten up, but I lied and told them that I'd been mugged, which played nicely into my complete lack of cash, credit, and identification. We're going to fast forward through the next few years. I was a kid on the street. I got by as best as I could, doing whatever I had to. The rest we can leave up to your imagination. Good? Good. Good. Glory's clenched jaw relaxes somewhat and the tension drains out of her shoulders. Thanks. So, anyway, I lived on the street for a few years. Got used to being hungry all the time, got used to being rained on, got by. I was painfully aware that I had magic talents, but without any kind of training or guidance, I didn't really know how to use or develop them. Truth be told, they scared me, so I more or less ignored them. So it just sort of went like that until a few days after my 17th birthday. Then I met Marta, and everything changed. Marta was a sweet girl, and at first I took her for a street kid like me. Her clothes were a little ratty, and she seemed comfortable being near me, but she also looked well-fed and happy. And those two things that I had were two things I hadn't been in years. We started hanging out. Before I knew what was happening, I was in love. There was a genuine attraction between Marta and me, I think, but I also think that a lot of my affection for her came from the fact that she was the first person in years to give a damn about me. She cared, and I loved her for that. She looks flustered, her composure cracked. Keep going, Glory? She stares at you for a beat, then nods. A few ragged breaths later, she continues. Marta told me about a place where she'd been hanging out. She invited me to join there. It was called Feuerstel, the fireplace. It was sort of a commune for dispossessed youth. Turns out a lot of the street kids I'd known over the years had moved there. The way that they disappeared, I'd assumed they'd been kidnapped or killed or had gone back to their parents, but there they were. I remember being kind of angry about it, like, how did everybody get the memo about this but me? Marta calmed me down. She was good at helping me work through my feelings. I wound up following her to Feuerstel. To a street kid, it was basically paradise. The owner, a guy named Haro, had set up this little farm just outside Tübingen in the Schönbuck forest. Schönbuck is officially a nature park, but not many people go there nowadays. Too much fear of paranormal animals, I guess. I'm getting a real Pinocchio vibe out of this. Anyway, park or not, it was plenty big enough for us to hide in. It was also safe and pretty, and the farm was well stocked with food. Most importantly, Feuerstel gave us a sense of community and stability that we'd never had on the street, and we loved Harrow for that. He became like a surrogate father to us. Or, you know, the Artful Dodger, not the Artful Dodger himself, but the group he belonged to. Glory pauses again. You recognize the distinctive flush in her cheeks. She seems to have come out of her reverie once again. That's enough for now. I need to process all this, and I don't want to continue forward until I've had the chance to do that. I know that this all happened years ago, but I guess it's still pretty raw to me, so I'm going to ask you to give me some space for a while. We can pick it back up later. Okay, just checking in. Okay. Yeah, she does have an interesting story. Let's check one unread message. Well, I've recovered one last DVD for you, but I'm afraid that's all you're going to get. Might as well use the rest as coasters. They're all beyond repair. If you look on the table beside your DVD player, you'll find the disc that I salvaged. To be completely honest, that was a lie. To recover this last disc, I was forced to subcontract. Shoddy is still a brute of a man, and I am unimpressed with his manner, but his poor hygiene disgusts me. But he's very good with old things such as this. All credit where it's due. Okay, go back. Open the jobs directory. Claim this. Submit the finish where to call your work unsatisfactory would be an understatement. When I said we wanted the prototype, it should have gone without saying we wanted it intact and operational. You technically fulfilled the terms of your arrangement, so you will get paid, but don't ever expect to work for us again. That's another. All pending and active jobs. Sabotage run. Oh, no, go back. Check the Alex one. Very close. Check the satellite VBS. I'm going to stop my timer. Link. Can I post pay data for sale? No. Claim payment? Sharing pharma ag chemical research data. 430 new yen. Okay. Manage safe house data. 460 new yen. VBS for relevant keywords. Formula 17. So we all seen this one floating around. The tricks about this is some serious stuff. It's got a heavy-duty core written all over it. Not a lot of players could be behind something like this. Ares or SK or maybe one of the big pharma core, say Sharing or AGC. Of course, you can never totally discount the Azzies either. Tolstoy, my esteemed colleague, this is indeed a recipe for some top-shelf dreck. Whispers from the shadows say this is sourced straight from the F state. Hello, boys. I'm a big fan. You know, long-time reader, first-time poster. Quite an interesting concoction you have here. I'm just itching to cook some up. So many interesting properties to play with. I've already got a few tweaks in mind for my own special version 2.0. Oh, just lovely. You sure they want to do that? This stuff doesn't play nice, and the corps are really bad at sharing their toys. You can, of course, always share their secrets for them. Just got to make sure that you run a little faster than them. Always running, SCW? Like clockwork. Bandit, I'm touched by your concern, but don't you worry about little old me. I do declare this shall be ever such fun. No more posts in this thread. Please help me find my daughter. Please help me find my daughter. She ran away from home. She is human in her early 20s, short blonde hair, dated deck. She was last seen wearing a light blue vest. This is not exactly the place to be looking for missing kids. How did you even get in here? I paid good money to get on here. I was told you people could help. If you got the new yen, you came to the right place. I sent you a number that you can reach me at. The old help me find my missing kid routine is classic. My money is on escaped wage slave. Make sure you do your homework, Ruby. Torque tracers. Anyone have a good backup plan for when you get stuck with a tracer? Barely managed to bug out of my apartment after a poor hit squad came knocking. Lesson learned. Pat yourself down a couple times and make sure you don't have a tail. But if I miss something, I'd rather keep my safe houses, safe. I've had good luck with RF blockers. I have a jamming grid set up near my safe house. It protects any signals to a few miles away, where I've got some cameras placed. So when someone shows up there, I know they were trying to find me. Then I do a thorough sweep to find the tracker. Sharp, how long does that go on before they give up? Rule of threes. Usually rule of threes. They keep reprojecting the signal to different locations. In my experience, they give up after the third one is a dead end and stop listening to that RF signal. Okay. So, my reputation is probably thoroughly in the dump. You are not a very good Shadowrun. You're competent, but you definitely don't... Okay. Now, I am going to stop this and check my hard drive. See you in a